Good day. It's Mr. Gazewood again with another book about Australia. Top to Bottom Down Under by Ted and Betsy Lewin. In Australia, there's a furry little animal that has a bill like a duck and a tail like a beaver. It has venom like a snake and lays eggs like a bird. There's a bird that lives in a hole like a mole and swims like a fish, but it can't fly. There are animals that hop on feet nearly the size of skateboards and carry their babies in their pockets. There are lizards that run on 2 feet like a human, and crocodiles called salties with teeth like a T-Rex. Some of these animals are found nowhere else on Earth. We've come more than halfway around the world to see them. We're here at last in the land down under. So called because Australia lies below the equator in the southern hemisphere. On the way, we lost a whole day in the middle of the ocean, crossing the international date line, and the seasons are reversed. It's fall here and springtime at home. Australia is so large from top to bottom that it's hot in the north and cold in the south. And on top of that, when you flush the toilet, the water swirls down on the wrong direction. See? Now that we're totally confused, we leave for Kakadu National Park, one of the wildest, most remote, most beautiful places anywhere. The Aboriginal people of the Alligator River region have inhabited this area for more than 30,000 years. That's more than 25,000 years before the pyramids were built in Egypt. The park is 7,453 square miles, the size of Connecticut. Now, can you read that sign? It says, "Danger, crocodiles. Watch your children and dogs." Well, at the campground, we set our tent next to a sign that said, "Danger, crocodiles. Watch your children and dogs." And we curled up in our sleeping bags, not sure what day it is, or what time of year it is, or why crocodiles only eat children and dogs. We are resting up for our first trip to the Billabong. The Billabong. Our skiff glides out into yellow water Billabong, a backwater lagoon. The Aboriginal word billa means water. The bong part is anybody's guess. The tiny yellow snowflake lilies that carpet the water in the wet season give this Billabong its name. Islands of pandanus palms, freshwater mangroves, and tall paperbark gum trees fill the landscape. Jabiru storks, 5 feet tall, and plumed ducks stand guard. See, what is that? That's the stork, and those are the ducks. We search the banks for the big salties, remembering not to drag our fingers in the water. Don't let the word salty fool you. Salties, or estuarine crocodiles, can live in fresh water of the Billabong as well as in salt water. Fishermen pass in search of the giant barramundi, a fish that can weigh up to 200 pounds. lotus bird looks as if it's walking on water. Actually, it's walking on lily pads. See? There it is. The lotus bird, if its chicks are threatened, the male lotus bird scoops them up under his wings and carries them off to safety. Finally, we see a big salty in the same color as the bank. It's about 15 feet long, bigger than our skiff. Its entire body rests on the bank, except for its nose, which is underwater. The croc, neither moving nor breathing, has shut down. A crocodile can maintain a heart rate of only 3 to 5 heartbeats per minute for an hour or more. On land, salties can run as fast as 15 miles per hour, so if a salty chases you, run either 16 miles an hour or in a zigzag fashion. Salties can't turn fast because of their tails, never run in a straight line, especially at 14 miles an hour. There's the big salty crocodile. Oh. We go deeper into the paper box swamp. The water is choked with soft green weeds. The croc caught a 30-pound barramundi and held it for 2 days until it rotted. Now the croc lurches half its length out of the water, shaking its head violently from side to side. Splash! Chunks of rotten fish go flying. We're soaked in the stinking fish. Oh, how awful. Time to move on. We see a strange movement in a tree. It's an olive python. Close by, a flycatcher sits calmly on its eggs. The python is swallowing another snake that is lighter in color, but the prey holds on tenaciously to the tree. We watch, spellbound. Finally, the lighter snake lets go, and both snakes fall through a thick spider web, swinging upside down like a grotesque pendulum. The flycatcher dreamily waits for a new life to appear as another one slips away. See, that's the flycatcher on her nest. And that is the olive snake, aloe olive. Dense stands of pandanus line the banks on their stilt roots. Aboriginals cut the leaves into strips, roll them, and weave them into ditty bags, which they use to carry just about everything. There's a ditty bag. Kind of like a backpack. You probably have one. Watch out! Our skiff has drifted toward a freshwater mangrove or itchy tree. If you come in contact with the grubs on the underside of the leaves, you get itchy all over. Oops, a big salty with enormous choppers. Sits so still we almost miss it. The salty is yellow-green in color, newly arrived from the ocean. The longer crocodiles are away from salt water, the darker their skins become, until they are as dark as the color of the Billabong Bank. Oh, a big monitor lizard called a goanna swaggers by. 2 monsters from the Jurassic era. We start the engine and leave the old fossils to themselves. There's the goanna. He's coming to get that croc. Oh my goodness. The landscape ahead turns to dream time. See? The black water is framed by pandanus and great high stands of Arnhem bamboo. No one knows just how the bamboo got there. The Aboriginals tell Dreamtime or creation stories to explain its appearance. As we sit quietly in this grove of Dreamtime bamboo, we think about how the Aboriginal people have always lived in perfect harmony with this land. The next day, we leave camp in the cruiser. On either side of the road, vast yellow-brown floodplains are punctuated by blackened, newly burned stretches and bright green growth around water holes. The sky is a dark gray, heavy with clouds. A dingo crosses in front of us and lies down in a fresh burn, head flat on the ground. The rest of the pack appears in the tall green grass. 2 whistling kites sit nearby on the rotting carcass of a water buffalo. Other kites circle and wheel in like vultures, trying to buzz them off. A crow joins in the confusion. See, that's a dead water buffalo. That's what a carcass is. It's a dead animal. No, there's the kite. It's a big bird, and these are the dingoes. Now the dingo nearest us tugs at the buffalo with everything it's got, rips a shred of skin and meat loose and bolts it down. For 5 minutes, the other dingoes share the carcass. Suddenly, a ferocious fight breaks out. The dingo near us turns, drops its hindquarters, lays back its ears, and bares its teeth in a hideous grin. The pack attacks, then gives chase when our dingo flees. No one returns to the carcass, not even the crow. Now we're flying over the red center, mile after mile of wild, empty red land. We're on our way to Flinders Chase National Park on Kangaroo Island. Home to almost all of Australia's wildlife except dingoes. Kangaroo Island is a green jewel in the cold southern sea, larger than the state of Rhode Island. Look at all these animals that live there. In 1802, it was discovered by Captain Matthew Flinders, a young British explorer, uninhabited then. It now has a population of almost 4,000 people. In the late afternoon sun, kangaroos and Cape Barren geese graze on the broad green meadows. Flightless emus walk by, striking poses with each step, red-eyed and haughty. All are protected and unafraid of humans. A Kangaroo Island kangaroo and the tiny Joey in her pouch graze the short grass. It's as if Mama has 2 heads. She has her own head and another head coming out of the pouch. The kangaroos on Kangaroo Island are darker, stockier, shorter limbed, and slower moving than the kangaroos on the mainland. See? Koalas hang in the tops of the rough bark manna gums like great bunches of soft, furry fruit. One tiny chocolate brown baby clings to its mother between her belly and the tree. Koala means no drink in the Aboriginal language. That evening, as we eat our rice laced with Tabasco sauce, 4 kangaroos and a brush-tailed possum invite themselves to dinner. The possum sits on our plate. Mama kangaroo intercepts our food on its way to our mouths. Another grabs our shirt fronts and rocks back on her tail, freeing up her very strong clawed feet. Feet that could kick your guts out. She can have our rice, no worries. The next day, we spot a little thorn bush walking across the road in broad daylight. An echidna, There are only two kinds of monotremes, or egg-laying mammals, in the world: the echidna and the platypus. Here's the echidna. See how spiky she is? Look at that. Sensing our presence, the echidna stops and tucks its long nose under its body. Its spiny back prickles in the air as it starts sinking into the ground. We back off, afraid that if it keeps digging, it will disappear before our eyes, like Rumpelstiltskin. Then the little thorn bush rises up out of its hole and waddles off into the scrub. Rocky River is a swift-moving stream full of great gum trees and long, fan-like water weeds. Moss grows everywhere. It is the home of the other egg layer, the platypus. In the pouring rain, we watch the surface for the rush of bubbles that will signal its arrival. Then we realize that water striders send false platypus signals. So do leaves and raindrops. Finally, at dusk, not 5 feet from us, a sleek little beaver body and a soft leather bill pops up to the surface. Can you see that? It's dark, but can you see its furry body and its bill like a duck? When its nictitating membranes are shut, its eyes look like yellow headlights. When its membranes are open, we see little black shiny eyes. Plop! The platypus works its way underwater. Perhaps it is probing and nuzzling with its sensitive bill, feeding on insects, grubs, and small fish, storing them in its cheek pouches. It slides up into its burrow and is gone. What luck, seeing both monotremes in one day. Not far down the coast from the campsite, there's an enchanted place called Seal Bay. The beach and surrounding dunes are littered with Australian sea lions sleeping on blankets of black seaweed, silver gulls in attendance, and we walk on the beach expecting all the sea lions to flee. Instead, they continue to sleep, scratch and yawn, wonderful whiskered creatures smelling of fish and the sea. Can you see them? A big female galumps toward us, mouth wide open. Is she greeting us or charging us? She nuzzles, bites, pushes, and barks at every other sea lion on the beach. They look at her, wearily yawn, and lie back as she waddles into the sea. We lie down in the warm sand in the midst of the herd, 500 strong. The sea lions here are about 10% of all of their kind that are left in the world. Huge bulls sit as solid as pyramids, noses pointed to the sky, eyes closed, dozing. 2 young bulls joust on in a field of seaweed. They shoulder, push, and bite each other like puppies. When they tire of the game, they too doze off. All this yawning and sleeping is catching. Before long, we are fast asleep too. There's the sea lion, the bull sea lion. That's like the daddy sea lion. It is dark, very cold and windy where the fairy penguins live. We pick our way carefully down the jumbled, slippery, lichen-covered rocks to the shore. The sun sets and the rocks take on monstrous shapes, sea serpents, gigantic toads, and lizards. But look, in the rocks, what do you see? All along the rocks, over the sound of the sea breaking up on top of the rocks, we hear yapping and laughing. A crowd of fairy penguins, like little people dressed to the nines, waddle out of the sea after a long day of fishing. It is our last night in this wondrous land. As we nestle into our sleeping bags, we think about the long trip home. Fall will change back to spring. We will pick up the day we lost in the middle of the ocean, and the toilets will flush in the right direction. And now we dream about those little people out there in that cold black sea, laughing their hearts out. And that is our story. Thanks for listening. Good day.